I don't think you can convince yourself you didn't like something that you did like, but
Yeah.
I can hate a movie and then be convinced to like it, because I don't think a good movie has to be like a fun watch every time, you know?
Hi, welcome to Mojo. My name is Ivan Zapata, and I'll be your host for this week. Now, 2026 feels like one of those years where the movie industry has to look itself in the proverbial mirror. Big franchises and familiar IPs are either proving they still matter or quietly confirming that their moment has passed. There's a lot riding on sequels, reboots, one last try installments. Meanwhile, smaller budget, independent genre films are just trying to break through the noise, find an audience, and become our next cult following. This year is shaping up to be less about hype and more about confirming what works, what doesn't, and where movies go from here. To help us dive a bit deeper into the industry's do's and don'ts, my guest this week is Kit Lazer from Movies Are Therapy. He's a content creator, a reviewer, hell bent on delivering movie and TV content that is on point, personal, but overall genuine. So, Kit, how you doing, man? Welcome to Mojo.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing wonderful, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So, straight into the meat of things. We're going to focus on movies for this one. I know you also do TV, but I want to focus on movies because 2026, like I mentioned, is going to be an interesting year with a lot of things coming out and a lot of things kind of maybe not a last hurrah, but things that are riding on some of the movies that are coming out this year. So we'll go over the Watch Mojo top 5 movies that will save, I guess, 2026. But first, I want to know a little bit about your relationship with movies overall. Why start a review channel? Where does this come from?
Mm. I've always loved movies. I've always loved stories, specifically, the short version of the story that I've told many times. And I love talking about myself, so it's no big deal. Uh, I grew up pretty poor, and so I was one of those kids raised by a TV, and I adopted a love of reading early on from my dad. He was always sitting on the couch, reading the newspaper, reading the TV guide, and my mom would take me to the library every week, and I'd get these big sci-fi fantasy novels, and I read so much that she had to yell at me to go outside. That's why you always get this headache. Like, I don't know how many kids got yelled at for reading too much, but I
Yeah,
was one
not
of
that
them.
many, I guess. Yeah.
No, probably not. Yeah, I was never an athletic kid or sporty kid. I didn't go outside much, and that kind of, and you can still tell. Still don't, but so that's how it started. Just a love of stories, right? I was obsessed with like going to Blockbuster in my neighborhood. It was actually a place called Movie Warehouse, and I love these big dumb action flicks. All the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, the early Schwarzenegger movies, and
Mhm.
Dolph Lundgren, and real big into martial arts and action. And so that's how it all started. Um, I, I'm in recovery. I've been sober for 14 years almost now, and
Congrats,
that's a
man.
huge
Congrats.
part of my
Yeah.
journey. Thank you. Is sitting in an abandoned apartment with an extension cord to another apartment's electricity, watching Good Will Hunting or like the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes over and over and over. Um, so in that way, movies have saved my life a few times, right? That's just like the last thread of kind of empathy and emotion that I was hanging on to for a few years. But prior to that, as a teenager, as a kid, I always wanted to be a screenwriter and write novels. And I had all these, I read all these like Sid Field and Blake Snyder books, and I read, the Stephen King's On Writing, and I wanted to be published, and worked so hard at that for so long. I have like, it's like the serial killer in Seven when they find all those notebooks. Like that was, I had so many notebooks of like
Hopefully, just
scribbles.
the notebooks. So.
Yeah, yeah. No other through line to that, just the notebook part. Um, just did a ridiculous amount of scribbles and
Mhm.
plans for different books and movies and things like that. And yeah, man. So that I've always had that love. And after a few years sober, I had a kid, and life was starting to kind of stabilize, and I had food in the fridge, and bills paid, and it's that itch started coming back of like, being an artist, being creative in some way. So I started writing these reviews that seemed more like approachable than selling my screenplay, out of Kentucky,
Mhm.
where I was at the time. And I kept applying for jobs at, Screen Rant and Vulture, and I had the gall to even try like Slate and everywhere, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
never even got a response, man. I started a bunch of YouTube channels that never got any views, a couple of podcasts that never got any downloads. Back then, it was like all on SoundCloud. It was like
Yeah, yeah,
early
yeah, I remember
podcast
that. Yeah.
days. But I was delighted when I did have 38 or 50 listeners on an episode, and I did that for a long time until TikTok. I ran home to my wife and she was like, yeah, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is new.
This is
Because
it.
I
Yeah, yeah,
saw
yeah.
a TikToker on the red carpet for the Batman interviewing Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and I was and Paul Dano, and I was like, this is crazy. The access that these
Yeah.
TikTokers are being afforded right now, right? So I immediately, and I still had a podcast at the time that was doing moderately well,
Mhm.
but it was like this was something different. So I started making these TikTok videos. It took years, but a couple of years in, I started getting like major traction. And I made videos every day, just like with different goals. Like I just want to get like a DVD from a studio sent to my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
and then I got that, and
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
oh
never mind
wow,
an yeah, never mind an invitation. Just send me out a movie, man. I
yeah.
just want to watch it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I journal a lot, and I still have journal entries from like 4 years ago.
Cool.
Like TikTok changed everything for so many people, but that's how it is for me. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade, and nobody cared until TikTok came around, as far as I'm concerned, as far as my work goes. And it's been crazy. I mean, I've been all
Yeah,
over the
like
world.
the accessibility afforded by TikTok and for everyone who's trying to make content and stuff like that, and the easier it gets to create and to make and to tell stories and stuff like that. But going into that as well, I was telling you one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you is your TikTok. One of your pinned videos on TikTok talks a little bit about how you manage that channel as well, because obviously there is a power that comes with being able to review and reach people with your opinion about movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And you make it more personal, you make it more genuine, you try to make it about your take on things, and not really about what the general aura of or opinion is around an actor or a creator or a project itself, be it Marvel, be it DC and stuff like that. So what was that decision like? What was that? Was that just putting yourself out there, or how do you arrive at that type of content specifically, which resonates with a lot of people? You see it in your comments as well.
I realized early on that the the most valuable and authentic contribution I could make to any space, but especially this one, is my own personal perspective. That's the only
Mhm.
thing that no one else can do as good as I can, which is
Yeah.
my perspective, because I'm me, right? And I think that that's the beauty of art. And movies are empathy machines, and that's the whole point of art. Is how does this? In what ways is this about me? And in what ways is this so alien to me that I can learn about other people and grow as a person? That's what
Yeah.
movies are to me.
What do you look for in movies? What do you look for is it just the way they make you feel, or how do you approach a review or a critique of a movie?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, because I think the process just feels so natural and kind of automatic. But
Mhm.
I start with the most basic. How do I feel when I'm leaving the theater? I'm thinking, am I happy? Am I sad? Was I bored? Was I sleepy? Was I engaged? Was I angry? Did I laugh a lot? Did I cry a lot? Right? Like, the most
Yeah,
basic kind of taking note of my own emotions that a child could do, and then I reverse engineer that. I go from there. Okay, so what caused that anger, or why do I think I was bored? And then I can start getting into the three-act structure, or plot points, or I can think about the performances, the score, the cinematography. Oh yeah, they used a split diopter there, a snorri cam there, that was really cool. Or there was a lot of homage to John Carpenter in that, I think. And that's when I start getting a little deeper into that kind of stuff. But that's way later, right? Like, initially, you can if you liked it or not heading out of a movie, and I don't think you can convince yourself you didn't like something that you did like, but
yeah,
I can hate a movie and then be convinced to like it, because I don't think a good movie has to be like a fun watch. every time, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
I think about movies like almost anything David Lowery makes, you know, like those can be kind of excruciating experiences that are
Yeah.
just so life-changing and beautiful. And anyway, I'm rambling a lot, but
No,
yeah,
no,
I
it's
think,
it's fine. It's great to hear because I mean, me personally, I usually I have a positivity scale that I try to implement whenever I watch a movie. It can be like a movie probably got trashed somewhere and people don't like. And I always try to find the positive aspect to any movie. Like, okay, I like the music, I like the cinematography. I like to focus on that. And it's I think it's more a mental health issue for me
mhm,
because I want to feel good about watching movies and stuff that I like that it's usually the first headline you read about any project is usually the bad one. Like this is what's wrong with this movie or this project. So I try to steer it the other way, and it comes back to like the personal aspect of the way you see movies and the way you enjoy them. Which brings me to 2026. 2026 is going to be interesting because a lot a lot of things moved around in the industry. The Netflix Warner deal, and then you have Marvel doing like Doomsday, and that kind of expectation of like, is this going to be it? Is this going to happen? So, how do you perceive 2026 in like in maybe not industry wide because it's huge, but what are your take on 2026? What do you think they're doing right or wrong, or how should we approach this?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm excited for a lot of
Yeah,
movies. You know, I try not. It all looks really bad on a macro scale,
yeah.
like the trend of how often people go to theaters, the things that studios are doing to combat that, AI, streamers and how they pay the crew, the state
Mhm,
of LA's film industry, and how many people are out of work because they're
mhm.
filming all the movies in London and Canada and places that give them tax breaks. And
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
nightmare if you look at all that stuff, and I have control over zero of it.
yeah.
I don't think they're doing anything super well at the industry level, at the studio level,
Yeah,
executive level. But also it's not, people are going to hate this, but because it's like never blame the audience, right? But
yep,
if you look at, a lot of people say, "Oh, I hate how often they
yep,
make sequels and IP and blah 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 blah." Dude, I don't think these people are aware. Thousands of movies come out every year.
yeah.
I watched 250 plus 2025 releases,
Yeah, I
and
think
that
I
was
saw.
like a
Yeah, I
lot of
saw that TikTok where you like list them out. Yeah. No, I
that
saw
was a
it.
lot of
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
and I still missed hundreds and hundreds of big ones, much less like if you think about all the tiny tiny indies. So they're there, you just got to seek them out. Nobody
mhm,
chooses to do that. Very few people choose to do that. If you look at all of the highest grossing movies of the last 20 years, they're all sequels or IP driven for the most part.
yeah,
And so it's like, can you blame a bottom line driven company from looking
mhm,
at what sells and making more of these kinds of things,
mhm.
you just these live action Disney remakes that are literally just almost shot for shot the same
Yeah.
movie that came out a couple years ago. It'll make over $1 billion every time. If I hate it, but if I was them, I'd be making those every week. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, I think it's business, but it's a
yeah,
good one thing that you really like do that I like is you propose these like out of left field kind of movies. Like, okay, go watch this and see what you think. Goes, well, go watch this horror, or go watch this, kind of like coming of age film or whatever that are a little bit indie. I know you love A24. I love A24. Like I haven't watched all of them, but I do like a lot of A24 and the way they're doing their work. So, uh, is that one way to maybe not combat this, but can those two live together? Like try and if you're tired of IPs, go to your local store, I guess, or find it on YouTube or do what Markiplier is doing right now and just
yeah,
fund it yourself. That dude is nuts, man. He got like 2,500 screens for Iron Lung, and he just did it himself. So that's one way to disrupt, I guess, the industry, right?
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna look for some W's around it, you could look at Markiplier or a
Yep.
couple of YouTubers like Raka Raka, the Philippou
Yep.
brothers. I love their movies and their style, and
Mhm.
Chris Stuckman I love what Neon's doing. You talked about A24 because I wear that hat all the time, but
Yeah.
honestly, Neon's the true the true
Yeah.
trailblazer here. You know, they've got like what 6 Palme d'Or winners in a row, and they don't have that same commercial flavor to their indie style yet. Like
Mhm.
A24 is all about the merch and the idea more than, nowadays, which I think kind of sucks. But yeah, there's some good indie studios, and that's just the way of things. Lionsgate
Mhm.
used to be an indie
An indie.
studio.
Mhm.
It'll probably be 10 years at the most before
Yeah.
A24 is the big studio that's probably owned by Disney, and it'll be someone else that we're like championing as like the little engine
Yeah,
that
as long as
could.
they keep making originals, I'm not
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're doing
that's
really good
true. They
stuff
do
too.
green
So
light
yeah,
scripts and projects, and that's
yeah.
important, and that's to be applauded for sure. Yeah, and there's even the big streamers, like especially HBO Max has always had a really
Mhm.
robust like classic film library and international cinema. There's a lot of Bergman and stuff on HBO Max. They're great for that stuff. And but if you look at, again, man, to point it back at the audience, because we already know everything the studios are doing that's
Yep.
whack, and
Yeah, yeah.
but and their men in suits have been ruining the world as long as since they've invented suits, right? And it's like, okay, but also look at the audience and look at the decline in literacy levels and just lack of curiosity in general nowadays. Look at the top 10 on Netflix or
Mhm.
HBO Max at any given time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a bunch of garbage for the most part, uh, that everybody's making fun of while they watch it. And so
Yeah,
what the guys in suits do is go, well, this got 13 billion streams.
yeah.
Let's make another one. Let's bring
Let's make
suits
another one of
back.
these.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Let's bring Suits back. Now that we're talking about Suits,
You know what I
let's just
mean?
put it out there. Yeah, let's make it obvious, I guess. No, I get you. I get you. I get you. But and yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a decline in the wow factor, and not just that, but like there's a specific term for that. There's awe. People are not surprised or don't want to be surprised anymore. It's weird. It's
Yeah,
a
that's what
weird
I mean. The
take.
lack of
It's a weird take.
curiosity.
Yeah, lack of curiosity. Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Well, on that end, I do want to go through our top five. I mean, we put out a top 10. This is coming out later, so we put out a top 10 of movies that will probably save 2026. Obviously, most of these are big franchises. Most of these are big IPs. However, a lot of, I think, sadly enough, a lot of the industry rides on the success or failure of most of these, right? Because that's where the decisions are gonna come from to see what happens in the movie industry. So I want to go through the top 5 movies that will save 2026 according to Watch Mojo. This is according to us. I want to go through each one and see how you feel about them and if you think they might go in that spot or not. All right. So number 5 is The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is coming out of a successful TV run, a lot of ups and downs in that franchise, but they're capping it off with a movie, and people are seemingly excited about this one. I don't know. How do you feel?
I'm excited. I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy,
Hmm.
but I like The Mandalorian. I didn't like some of the, Book of Boba Fett and stuff that much, and
Yeah, we don't talk about Book of Boba Fett in
I
this
think we
house.
need more Andor than we do
Yeah,
much, those
completely
kind of
agree. Yeah.
things, those kind of stories. But yeah, I mean, I'll watch it day one and be excited. It's not on my list, but it's an exciting thing. It's going to do well. It's Star Wars,
Yeah, it's Star Wars. Yeah, and, the marketing for that one's going to be a little bit insane. All right, so number 4 we have Dune Part 3. So
Yes,
Thrune,
now we're talking.
yeah, Doomsday they're calling it because it's coming out the same day
Yeah.
as Avengers Doomsday. So Dune Part 3. How is that coming along? Because Denis Villeneuve, right? This dude knows his sci-fi, and I think they are big budget films, but they don't feel and like obviously the scale is enormous, but they don't feel. I've never felt Dune is like a huge franchise like Avengers or anything like that, but they've quietly made the rounds in sci-fi, and they're built huge, but they feel like really kind of homey and comfortable for a lot of people. Do you kind of feel that way? I mean, that's kind of my take on Dune and how I've enjoyed the 2 movies so far.
No, I know what you mean. I think, Dune is very similar to Star Wars in many ways. In fact, Star Wars borrowed a lot from Dune. It's in its DNA, right? But Dune's weird, right?
Yeah,
And
it,
even though
you
it's a
know,
really popular like book IP, it's weird. And I think Denis Villeneuve was the perfect director because the movies are weird. They're not. It's
yeah,
this giant successful blockbuster that's really not in any way made to have mass appeal. You know,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
like this is something for the nerds, the nerdiest of the nerds. That now you've got Zendaya and Chalamet, and so everyone's watching like the nerdiest of the nerd stuff. You know,
Is
uh,
that the drive of the cast? That's got to be it. That's
I can
bringing
tell
in the audiences, right?
full cross sections of people that typically wouldn't watch Sandworm, movie, but in general, it's just a really good movie.
Yeah,
And Dune 1 and 2 are fantastic. And I think sometimes you sneak one of those in blockbuster form,
yeah.
and that's an impressive thing to accomplish. And that's what Denis Villeneuve and his team managed to do. And I'm so excited for Dune 3. I think that's an incredible choice.
I mean, it probably is not related apart from the sand, but I did compare the first one, at least in my mind, to Fury Road, right, to Mad Max, because you can tell that they were making like a movie. You can tell they enjoy doing that and the big spectacle, and it's just down, maybe not down and dirty, but it's like really it's filmmaking, right? And it's what Denis Villeneuve does, and it's what George Miller did with Fury Road, and it felt like really genuine. And I think that's what drove me into the world of Dune. So I enjoy that a lot when films look like they were made. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, a
That,
thousand
yeah,
percent. I think Ethan Hawke said it best, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it really doesn't matter how big the budget is, or whether or not it's a sequel, or whether or not it's an IP, or if it's an indie film. You can tell, no matter what it is, when something was made with heart and
yeah,
passion, and when something was just trying to be cashed in on.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Agreed.
and I think that's the difference, and you can tell that.
Yeah. All right, Dune Part 3. Number 3 here is Spider-Man Brand New Day. Um, is Spider-Man the best run in the MCU?
Uh, and
It,
by
like,
what metric?
does it have? Is that the one that like it's been constantly good,
The most
or
consistent
no?
quality?
Most consistent quality. Yeah,
Ah, I guess you could say that. I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest thing to say. A lot of people don't. I like all the Spider-Man movies. I like Tom
hmm,
Holland. I think they're really fun, even the ones that people don't typically like
yep,
or say they don't, and I don't believe them. Like No Way Home, or like
yeah.
what is it? What's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? That
Yeah. Far From
there's
Home.
Far From Home. Yeah, I know his
Far
home
From
in
Home.
there somewhere. I knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody acts like Far From Home is a really bad movie. I guess I don't see that. You know what I mean? Like those are all really. So yeah, I wouldn't fight you for saying that. Brand New Day. For some reason, I'm not like thinking about that movie a lot. I have no
Yeah,
interest, but I'll be
yeah.
there day one, and I'm interested with Sadie Sink being in it and all that stuff. But I
It's
have
been
no
an
real hype.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one because they've hidden a lot of things, but then
Mm.
they've put out a lot of things like to try and make it like grounded. They put out the stunts and they put out those first images and videos of Tom Holland in the suit and going down the street and swinging around, and everything's practical now and stuff like that. So I think they're kind of shifting away from the cosmic and everything and just going back down to earth, and having the Punisher in there, and we don't know what Sadie Sink is going to do. So I think Spider-Man, I think it's there at number 3. Personally, I would have put it a little bit lower, maybe 6 or something like that, because I don't. But it is going to be an interesting take on a Marvel franchise that it's kind of finding its way back. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Spider-Man is the one to kind of bring people in before Doomsday.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it's
number
important for
2,
Doomsday.
go for it. Yeah. Number 2, we have the Odyssey. See, this one I would have had number 1, but number 2, the Odyssey. This one's interesting. How do you feel about the Odyssey right now with Chris Nolan?
I mean, you can't help but just kind of marvel at what Chris Nolan's able to do nowadays in a world where it seems like a lot of people aren't that excited about most movies.
Mhm.
You got a guy who is able to put butts in seats just based on his name as a director. And that's something you haven't seen in a long time. You know, only a couple. You know, Tarantino kind of has that quality, but not
Mhm.
anywhere near the magnitude that Nolan. I mean, he sold tickets to this thing over a year out and sold out. You know,
Sold out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that was just a flex. There's no reason to do that. And yeah, so I'm stunned by that. I'm so excited to see, you know, what it is. I really liked Oppenheimer. My favorite Nolan movie's The Prestige, so I'm not your
Mhm.
typical like Nolan fan, but I love all of his movies for the most part, and really excited for this one. Great cast.
Yeah, no, it's super stacked. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think also the legends and the behind the scenes of every Christopher Nolan movie, like he crashed the plane, and so we're even more excited to see what he's gonna do for this one, for the Trojan horse, for the big uh that everybody's criticizing the historical accuracy, but everybody's like, we don't care about this. This looks like insane. This looks awesome, and we'll see how much of the Odyssey it covers and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel this one is it's very much set for this year and to kind of establish Chris Nolan as the legend that he is. So I am also very excited about this one. And number one, I think, is no nonsense, is Avengers Doomsday. People say they don't care, but they so do care about this movie. The amount of content about theories and everything that's coming out about Avengers Doomsday makes me think that people are excited to go back to theaters to watch, watch the Avengers again and watch whatever culmination of, I don't know, whatever happened in the MCU in the past like 8 years it's gonna come down to. So what's your take on Avengers Doomsday at number one for movies that will probably save 2026?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna make money,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm not super into the comic lore. You know, I
Mhm.
haven't read that many superhero comics. So I'm really not the guy anybody comes to for this. But you know, I have seen all of the MCU movies and all of the shows,
Yep.
and you know, I was one of the many, many millions of people that was really invested in the Infinity Saga and all that stuff. And
Same, same. Mhm.
I personally feel like Marvel has been floundering every time they do make a unique. Like Thunderbolts was really good. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Still didn't do that well. So it's like and now they're kind of embarrassing themselves with the marketing for Doomsday and like, "Oh, we got this it's Chris Evans," and everybody's like, "Come on, man, you're just panicking and going back
Yeah.
to what was successful that you ended in a perfect way. You got no new ideas. You're done. You're
Yeah.
cooked, right?" I do have this suspicion that the heyday of Marvel is over and
Okay.
the time of DC has begun, and I didn't mean to make a pun with James Gunn's name there, but I did, and I'll stick to it.
Yeah, got it. We'll clip it and we'll put it up. Yeah, no, perfect. But okay, going back to Thunderbolts though, because Thunderbolts was a great movie. I think I enjoyed Thunderbolts a lot. What happened? Was it the audience? Because I think it was mostly the audience that kind of brought it down, but I'm not sure about that one because everyone I talked to, they really enjoyed it and it went up in the charts in streaming, but people didn't care to see it in the movies. Was it just like a marketing thing?
Yeah, I think, you know, you got all these I guess you could say, you know, they're kinda like C-tier characters to most
Mhm.
average people, and but that shouldn't matter, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think people forget, like, with Guardians of the Galaxy, only the nerdiest of the nerds knew who those characters were, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, just kinda word traveled fast that it was a really fun, good movie, and now they're legendary heroes, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone acts like they always knew who Drax was, and, you know, and maybe they did, but yeah, nobody had the Star-Lord T-shirt,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
in 2003. Nobody had the Star-Lord pajamas when they were kids, you know? It just
They
it was
Walkmans came back into style. You know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, but then that's kinda that's not really apples to apples because the
Yeah.
MCU in general was just in a different place then, but, I don't know, man. I really liked that movie. Everybody I know liked that movie, you
Mhm.
know? I expected it to do better than it did.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also like the bar is really set at a point where it's almost unreachable now because like the peak of the MCU was nuts. So
Mhm.
trying to build back up to there, I think, is the worst mistake that they're trying to do, instead of really banking on their heroes, their characters, and the amazing actors that they have on their, in their movies. So yeah, definitely. All right, man, let's close it out. I want to know what your top 5 movies that got you excited for 2026 are. If you have them off the top of your head, or if you
Yeah,
want to look at your letterbox, go for it. Yeah.
I've got them. There's a bunch of stuff that we didn't get to talk about. I had the Odyssey there was the only crossover, so I can take that off because we talked about that, and I'll substitute it. I'm gonna put Supergirl in there.
Ooh,
I think
yes.
if I want to go for like straight hype, I mean that's the movie that I really, really want to see right now. I like Millie Alcock. I'm a huge House of the Dragon fan and Game of Thrones fan in general. You can see the swords and stuff back there, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a big DC guy, so I'm hyped for that. Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, I think looks incredibly
Yes.
interesting. Working
Yes.
with her brother, all kinds of good stuff. Jesse Buckley probably be fresh off an Oscar win when that comes out. Um, Werewolf, the new Robert Eggers film.
Mhm.
I love The Northman. I love The Witch. Lighthouse is great. Uh, Big fan of Nosferatu. I mean, the guy just has impeccable aura, I think, as the kids would say. And I don't know anything about what's going on with that movie other than I really want to see it.
Yeah.
And then 2 more real quick. Of course, Steven Spielberg. Anytime that guy drops a movie, you got to pay attention. Disclosure Day is coming out. The cast looks really interesting for a Spielberg movie. You got Wyatt Russell and just some interesting characters there. So that's probably the number one for me. But I do have to mention the new Inarritu film with Tom Cruise, Digger. Whatever they got cooking. Haven't seen Cruise in anything that wasn't a Mission Impossible movie for a while. So it's I got to know what got him to get out of doing the stunts and see what they've been working on. I mean, that's going to be amazing, I think. So those would be my 5. Um, there's all kinds of good stuff coming out this year, man.
Yeah, no, this year's gonna be crazy. Thank you for putting that Mexican director in there. I always
Oh, I'm a
appreciate
huge
it.
fan, and
I
Del Toro
always
is probably my
appreciate it.
goat. So
There you go. There you go. Perfect. That's one interview. Like, I met him once, like face to face. I almost cried. It happens a
Del
lot here in
Toro,
Mexico. Yeah. Yeah,
oh
it
yeah,
happens a lot here in Mexico. And like people see him and they kind of automatically cry, which is
oh I would
interesting,
be.
an interesting take.
He's going to be at Kronos is playing at Sundance, and he's going to
Oh,
be
that's
there,
awesome.
and so I
That's
might
awesome.
run into him. There's an opportunity. So yeah, I hope so.
Have a lot of fun. All right. Kit, thank you so much for talking with us today, man.
Thanks for
This was
having me. It's an
great.
honor.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one. Please tell people where they can find you on the internet.
I'm on TikTok at Movies Are Therapy. I'm on YouTube and Instagram at the same name. I have a podcast called Streaming Things. That's what my hat is, where we talk about shows episode by episode, get into really deep dives. People have a lot of fun over there, so check that out. That's mainly it.
All right. Perfect. So follow Kit Lazer in Movies Are Therapy, and we will see you here on the next episode of Mojo. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.